Tonight, we are on board Royal Caribbean's Ovation of the Seas, and I'm going to share with you what went well, what could use a little improvement, and tips and tricks to help make your next cruise that much smoother. Welcome back to Travels Large. If you're new here, I'd like to welcome you. My name is Josh, and I provide reviews, tours of cruise ships, resorts, and different destinations around the world. I have been traveling for over 10 years, and I want to share that expertise with you tonight. Tonight, we are on board Royal Caribbean's Ovation of the Seas. Even though this ship originally launched in April of 2016, it is still to this day one of the most technologically advanced ships out at sea. Tonight, we are ending a 7-night Alaskan cruise with about 4,700 passengers on board. And I'm going to share with you what went well, what could use a little improvement, and tips and tricks to help make your next cruise that much smoother. Ovation of the Seas is a ship that was launched in April of 2016 with its last refurbishment in 2021. This ship fits anywhere between 4,100 to 4,900. Right now we're ending a 7-night Alaskan cruise with a little over 4,700 passengers on board. I'd like to talk about boarding. Honestly, looking through all the cruises, this is my 20th cruise. I wish all cruise lines would learn something from Royal Caribbean. Once we got to the port in Seattle, it was quick. Took us 30 minutes to get from the door to on the ship. There was no hassle, security lines were fast. It all went very, very smooth. Unfortunately, I've sailed many other ships, many other cruise lines, and to be honest, nobody matches Royal Caribbean in their ability to get people from the pier to on the ship. That is something that just still blows my mind to this day. So that is one thing that went very well, is the boarding process at the port of Seattle. Royal Caribbean leaves from Pier 91. There's two different places usually cruises leave from in Seattle, Pier 66 and Pier 91. 91's a little more farther away from the downtown, but it's still fairly accessible with a taxi, a lift, a shuttle, something of that sort. Unfortunately, there is no mass transportation that takes you to the port, but you can get there with a prearranged shuttle, a Lyft, an Uber, something like that for you. Being a 7-night Alaskan cruise, you may wonder what the demographics look like on board. And to be honest with you, there is everybody on board, from babies on up to retirees and everything in between. Solo cruisers, families, just couples, everybody is on board and very welcome. On this cruise, I did choose a large balcony room, which basically gives me almost triple the space of a standard balcony. This room is very spacious. Has room to sleep 3 people in room 12562, which is on deck 12 forward of the ship. One great thing about this room, I brought my son with me, and the children's club, which is Adventure Ocean, is literally steps away from our room. Makes it very nice, quick, and easy to get him to that kids club. However, back in the room, there's plenty of storage, so there's ample places to store your items while you're on board. There's a mini fridge in the room. And the bathroom, one thing that I think is really cool is there is a nightlight that stays on at night without having to have the bathroom light on, which is wonderful if you get up there in the middle of the night. The stateroom attendant was very, very accommodating. She would ask Caden what type of animal he would like for a towel animal. They do towel animals every other night of the cruise. It is not an every night sort of thing. They do turn down your room once a day. Back before COVID, they were twice a day. However, they have reduced that to just once a day, so kind of heads up on that. But most cruise lines are doing that nowadays, with the exception of, oddly, MSC does it twice a day still. From the room, I like to work myself up to the buffet. The Windjammer Cafe is an area on board that I would say gets a little tight during busy times. There was times we had to stand in line in order to get a table. That is because honestly, I don't think the Windjammer Cafe on board is big enough to seat enough people. So that is kind of the theme in the dining here on board Ovation of the Seas, is having enough room for everybody. If you want a table, you're going to have to go early or maybe a little later during the hours. The Windjammer's hours are a little limited. They are open until 8:30 p.m. They open at 6:30 a.m. for breakfast service. The food, however, is delicious. There's hot dogs to Indian food to pasta to salad, pretty much everything in between. One thing, there's a little bakery area as soon as you enter the Windjammer Cafe. Fantastic cookies. They are usually very warm, almost like they just came out of the oven. They may have, I don't know, I didn't ask. But if you're looking for chocolate chip, oatmeal raisin cookies that taste like they're just out of the oven, that is the place to go. It's right next to where they have a little Starbucks cafe there in the Windjammer Cafe. One thing that is nice on Ovation of the Seas, there are several different quick service complimentary dining options, from Sorrento's Pizza to the Solarium Cafe to the Windjammer Cafe to Fish and Chips, Cafe 270. I can keep listing them. However, get on board, experience it for yourself, because that is one thing that I think sets this ship apart from a lot of other cruises out there, is there's the ability to get something to eat pretty much anywhere on the ship at any time. So if the Windjammer is too busy for you, go down to Cafe 270 and you can get yourself a bite there. The main dining rooms, once again, food's really good. They usually have a theme every night. So one night will be like made in the USA, then there'll be an Italian night, which I complimented them because there's a certain Italian cruise line that Royal Caribbean, I would say, makes better Italian food than that Italian cruise line. So the food on board is delicious and I think well prepared for your taste. One thing I really like on board Royal Caribbean is how friendly the crew are. In the Windjammer, in the main dining room, there would be managers that would come up and talk to you, discuss everything with you. How is your cruise? How is your food? How is your dining experience? They're always looking for feedback and they're always very friendly. So that is one thing that I think sets Royal Caribbean apart from the other cruise lines, is that ability there. On board Ovation of the Seas, there are several specialty dining restaurants such as Wonderland, Izumi, Chops Grill, just to name a few. However, unfortunately on this cruise I did not experience any of the specialty dining, but if it's like anything from the past cruises I've been on Quantum of the Seas before, where I've had the specialty dining, and I would have to say the food is phenomenal there as well. After I'm done eating, I do like good entertainment. There are several entertainment venues on board. You have 270 in the aft, which is one of the most technologically advanced theaters I have ever seen, with robotic TV screens and different technology involved in the production. At 270, we saw the show Spectre's Cabaret. Took my 8-year-old son to that show. Honestly, it's a different show. The technology, the lighting, the dancing, the singing, they all did great. Like, don't get me wrong, it's just not a show for my personal taste, but it's something you may like and may want to try. If you do want to try that, I recommend sitting on the floor and getting reservations. The balcony seating, unfortunately, I don't know if it was just my ears, but I feel like the audio would be better down below. So you have the Royal Theater up in the forward part of the ship, where there's great stage shows there. Tonight we saw a great show in the Royal Theater called Beautiful Dream. Once again, wonderful show. They did a wonderful job putting it on. A lot of popular music was infused in that show, and I think that's something you can definitely enjoy as well. So definitely, if that's on your itinerary when you're on Ovation of the Seas, definitely give that a try, because I think you'll enjoy that. And then a couple different places throughout the ship, like Boleros, where you can also see some shows. So you have your options of entertainment on board. Of course, activities throughout the ship at all times. Being a colder climate, a lot of your on-deck activities weren't as frequent, to be honest with you. but they did have activities inside the ship. They have the seaplex on board, which is a great venue, and definitely for sports. We saw a lot of soccer, dodgeball, archery. So typically when I was on Quantum of the Seas, I did see laser tag. I have not seen that on this ship yet. I did ask about bumper cars. Unfortunately, that's something I think in the end could have went better. The bumper cars were broke. Throughout the ship, a lot of the Coke freestyle machines are broke, and some of the drinking, like the ice machines and water dispensers throughout the ship. A couple of the Xboxes up in the seaplex as well were broke. So honestly, that's something I think could have went better, and that's kind of nitpicking on my part. But that's something I wanted to make you aware of, is there are some items on board that could use a little repair. One of my favorite places on a cruise is definitely the pool area. The pools on board are chlorinated, so if you're worried about salt versus chlorine, on board it is chlorinated. The pools are heated, which is wonderful for an Alaskan cruise. Typically, most of the time, the main pool and the kids' play area were closed because of the cold weather. However, the indoor pool, which is heated, and the hot tubs were all open, and of course, the solarium area was open for the adults, which is heated pools as well. And honestly, that's where you find a lot of adults hiding from the children, I'm guessing. But as you can see here, it is a pretty packed area. So, but still lots of options. There was people using the flow rider during sea days, or even when we were in port, also great there. The iFly, another great area to get outside and enjoy the beautiful views of Alaska, of course. One thing that I was looking forward to doing while on board was the North Star. Unfortunately, I never got the opportunity to, because I read some of the requirements, and unfortunately, I am above the weight requirement, which is 300 pounds. This is how heavy you can be to go up there. That's totally fine. There's a reason behind that. The shopping on board, I'm typically a person who seeks out just cruise ship ornaments. They have them on board. It's something I personally collect. Out of the 20 cruises I've been on, I've gotten at least 75% of the ships that I've been on. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot I personally purchase, but if I had to say there are a lot of shopping options on board, that would be correct. You have anywhere from fine jewelry to, I saw they sold pre-owned Rolexes, refurbished I think is the term I'm digging for there. That way you can get one of those while you're on board as well. A lot of purse options. Kate Spade is one brand that sticks out. Just several options if you're in to go shopping. It's here on board Ovation of the Seas. Deck 4, you can find pretty much anything you want down there. The technology on board, the Wi-Fi is one thing that sticks out to me. One thing that is nice about Royal Caribbean, there's no surf package, there's no stream package. When you get internet, it covers everything. They have different options there. One device up to 4 devices, and the more devices you have, the cheaper it gets. So like, I think one device, if I saw right, was $26.99 a day. But if you do up to 4 devices, it gets as cheap as $20.99 a day per device. But I mean, you're looking still $84 for 4 devices per day for internet. So that is up to you, of course. Personally, that's one thing for me that could have went better. And I don't know if it's something I did wrong, but the internet was kind of hard to connect to at times. And I went up to the internet guy, great, helpful guy. He would help set my phone straight, but within about a half hour or so, I was struggling to stay connected. It would, between my computer and my phone, it would drop out at times. Not sure what's going on there, but when I was connected, pretty fast internet. I was impressed there. Just staying connected for me was a difficult time. So in conclusion, there are several things that I think went well on board Ovation of the Seas. The guest services is always, like, from my room steward to the dining staff, to basically anybody I came in contact with. Everybody was very friendly, very helpful, always offering to go above and beyond. For instance, our waiter one night in the dining room, my son didn't like something about his food. He went out of his way to make sure my son got something that he would eat, which what he asked for wasn't on the menu, wasn't even like talked about, but he went and got it for my son. So that is something I would have to say, like, kudos to the staff. That is one thing Royal Caribbean, I would always say, goes very well. Everyone's very helpful and goes out of their way. Another thing that I think also went well, of course, it is a beautiful ship. Royal Caribbean takes pride in taking care of their ships, I would say, outside of the few broken items. But any shiny surfaces, there was somebody always cleaning throughout the ship. That is, like, hands down, it looks like the ship just left for its first sailing. Like, it is in beautiful shape. Unfortunately, there are a few things that could have went better. Now, mind you, these are things that I'm kind of nitpicky about and things that I really had to sit down and try to find something that could go better. And one of those is the amount of broken things on board. The bumper cars, the Coke freestyle machines, the ice machines, things like that. I don't know if that's something they're working through, but that definitely, I would say, is as bad as it gets. Everything else seemed to work pretty good. Like the main attractions on the ship definitely worked very well. The internet's another kind of pain point for me. I'm not for sure if it's something I've been doing wrong, but that is something I think could be a little easier to use. My home internet usually works just fine. On the cruise ship though, it's hard for me to use this. So I don't know if it's just because of where we are in the world or because of the system, not for sure, but that is something, in my opinion, that could have went better. And the third thing that I think could have went better is some of the lines for things on the ship. So dining, there was always a line whether you had a reservation or not. There was always a massive line to get into the main dining room. The lines for the Windjammer Cafe, unfortunately, I think that's just a physical space issue. The Windjammer Cafe on here, I don't think was originally built big enough to handle up to 4,900 passengers. So it's nothing on the crew, but just kind of a heads up on that. And back when I went on Quantum of the Seas, it was kind of the same thing. So it's a quantum class problem. I've been on a few other classes of ships, like the Brilliance of the Seas, Navigator of the Seas. I didn't have those problems on those ships. So I think it's a quantum class thing personally. A couple tips on board. The internet package, if you do get it for one device, you can technically use it on different devices. It's just one device at a time. So you can log off one device and then log on to another device, which is what I've been doing. I've been going from my phone to my laptop, going back and forth on that. Also, as soon as you're able, make reservations for things that you want to do on board. The shows, the dining, and the experiences. So if you really want to do the North Star, make sure you think about what port you would like to do that in and reserve that as soon as you can, even before you get on board the ship. Another tip on board Quantum of the Seas, I would say, if you're looking for a quick bite, one area that I noticed that was always a little quieter than the rest of the ship was the 270 Cafe. Back there, they had a wide selection of food, such as like breakfast burritos in the morning or cuts of meat throughout the day. So if you're looking for a place that's a little quieter, you might give that a try. And then you can eat that in the 270 theater, where during the day, great views of either the port or sea. So that's just something to keep in mind. Overall, I would say Ovation of the Seas is a great trip. Royal Caribbean usually never lets me down, and once again, they did not. They exceeded my expectations. I enjoy sailing with Royal Caribbean every time. If you found this information helpful, definitely please feel free to hit that subscribe button down below. That way you can see further videos about travel tips, reviews, tours from destinations around the world. And from tonight, from on board Ovations of the Seas, in a small world, travel's large. Good night.